Hello and good morning if you're watching this when it comes out. It's a beautiful day, so I have to go on a ride and I'm taking you with me. Today, trying to find a different route so you see something new, but it's of course about me ranting about stuff. So today, let me check my mic quickly. Okay. So today we'll talk about support issues. That's something near and dear to our heart in many areas, whether it's your TV, your computer, your iPad, Google Pixel, whatever. But of course, we're going to talk about it in the context of the music industry. So I gotta go up here. I had a long chat with a rep, good friend of mine, from a pretty major brand. We're not going to reveal who it is. But I had an issue with installing a new software for like a piece of software that goes with the hardware, and all of a sudden it said, "Oh, can't work anymore. It doesn't work. You install this little bit. You need to install this other bit." Okay, annoying. Adds half an hour to the whole process, and I wanted to work. And so if you have to work, and all of a sudden, because of something that the software didn't warn you about, you're losing half an hour. In a professional studio, when the orchestra is sitting there telling them all to go take a hike for half an hour, a real problem. Well, I couldn't get the problem solved myself. It wasn't just a software installation, because the software couldn't even be downloaded. There was a bug. And then we get into the problem of, who do you talk to? Now, this company had phone support. It reduced its phone support to a mere few hours a week in Europe, and now there's nothing. Now there's an AI chatbot. So, AI chatbot only? Now, if we're talking about products that are consumer, well, you might not lose money when you can't record something, right? Because it's for fun, it's consumer. I get it. If this is for a pro crowd, then a professional will lose money if things don't work and they can't get help. Now, if I write them an email, I start a ticket, and realistically, I get an answer within 1 or 2 weeks. Now, explain to me, companies, and this is not just that company, this is indicative of the whole genre, of the whole industry. Explain to me how the fuck I'm supposed to run a professional studio if, when shit hits the fan, nobody's there to help me, and I can expect an email which will then start an email chain. It hasn't solved the problem yet. It will start an email chain in a week or two. That's just impossible. An international company will have to have 1, 2, 3 people sitting there 24/7 in shifts, so that if anyone anywhere in the world can call that international number and get help. Especially if their stuff is not necessarily consumer, but is in a price range, thousands, right? And then thousands on top and thousands on top, depending on if you buy add-on software and all that stuff. So it is being used by professional studios around the world, studios that make money with that, studios that have people traveling across the globe to book studio time. And all of a sudden, if that studio is down because of an issue there is nobody that can help you. Now, I cannot judge the company on the fact that I could be helped, because my buddy, who works for the company, spent 2 hours of his precious time helping me out. That's not even his job, because that job of support representative is not present in the company anymore, other than with email. And that is not immediate enough, not for a professional product. If the orchestra is fucking sitting there and then your audio interface or whatever it is, doesn't work anymore, right? Okay, so that's an issue. And again, that is not an issue with just that one company. That is an issue everywhere. Because, well, we'll get to that a bit, the decline of whatever in stuff in general and why that is. So they're trying an AI chatbot. Well, the AI chatbot, can't help me. Don't even know what to ask it. Anyway, so it's really horrible that that's happening. Why is that decline happening? Well, because the higher ups want to make more money, right? Let's just squeeze out the last little bit out of the company. Now, if you have a company run by people with passion, people that are not about the money, but they believe in their product and they want their product to be the best possible, then they set a standard. They'll set a standard of this is what customer service has to be. And they will not look at the competition, but they will strive to have the best standard in customer service that they can provide based on their own benchmarks, based on their own, expectations of what customer service is supposed to be. Problem is, companies look at other companies. So company A looks at company B saying, oh, they're using an AI chatbot, which means we can save 4 salaries. Okay, so let's do that too, because that way they don't have an advantage in how much money they can squeeze out of us, right? So instead of applying their own standard, they look at the competition and say, oh, the competition isn't that good, so we can lower our service as well. And instead of looking at companies who has the best service, we are now looking at companies who has the least shitty one. And there's going to be another video about shipping companies. Same thing. Internet service providers usually have massively horrible service, but whoever has the best service among the horrible is going to win. So that doesn't mean that it's a good service. It doesn't mean you don't have to be on hold for 2 or 3 hours. It just means that with the others, it's going to be 4 or 5 hours. Okay? Doesn't mean that your customer service representative is going to be knowledgeable. It just means he knows a little bit more than the guy who literally doesn't even know what product he's talking about. When I called Sony about my FX3 professional camera, the guy didn't even know that was a Sony product. Good work working at Sony in the hotline, where you can still actually reach someone. So, but we're talking about service in, let's say, the pro audio community, where getting immediate response is necessary if a studio is down, or if you're at a gig and something doesn't work. How the fuck do you get someone to help you? Now, if you look at Fractal, the European distributor G66 gives you the private numbers of the guy that can help you with any Fractal questions. And when you call that number, guess what? He picks up and he helps you. Now that is service, and that is why you spend a little bit more money on a Fractal product. But you know what? That's okay, because it's a complex product, and if you've got issues, you need to call someone. It's necessary. So if you have a company that takes a couple $1,000 for their pro audio product, you would think that they fold the cost of good service into the cost of the product, right? Well, you would think that, and that's how it was. But then those companies scaled back the customer support. Bad. So the question is, and we discussed this for quite a while this morning, what are the options? I mean, fact is, there needs to be support. It has to be there. So option number 1 is fold it back into the product price, make the product more expensive. But then some CEO is going to say, well, we're selling anyway, and you know what, so then we can scale it back again. So there has to be maybe a way to scale back to make the high-end support a separate thing that you pay for, so that they can scale back on that. You know, we have to circumvent the greediness of the fucking CEOs. That's where we're at. Frickin' French Revolution can't come soon enough again. So we just discussed a couple of different things, and I want you to comment in the comments which one of those you think is good. And I doubt you can say, oh, I'm working with this company and they've got the greatest support. Please let me know, because if one company has a leg up and has an advantage in support and better support than the others, then the others need to look at that. Because they all want money for their product. So, I mean, that's a level playing field. The price is the price. So one of the issues is, of course, thousands of people coming with their little problems. And what the chatbot's supposed to do is weed out the problems that are easy to solve with an FAQ that now an AI can find for you. Okay, I get it. Maybe use the chatbot, but I'm thinking, what about an honor system where the chatbot doesn't weed out whether you get preferred support, whether you get it now, tomorrow, or whenever, which is, right now, the solution is you get it in a week. And that's not professional. That cannot solve the orchestra sitting there issue. So I was suggesting, I know an honor system in today's time, probably not gonna happen, but what if we installed an honor system, you went to the website, you looked for support, and it asks you, be honest, is that something that can wait until tomorrow? Is it something that would be nice to be solved in a week? Do you have a massively problematic thing with an orchestra sitting there and right now every second costs you money? So you answer honestly and you'll be put in the queue depending on that answer. But you can't abuse it, because if they find out that it actually, based on, let's say, their scale of the scale that they presented you ahead of time, was not truthfully answered, they would simply give you a strike. And 2 strikes and you're out. If you abuse the system wrongfully twice, you will always go in the longest queue. I think we should be living in a society, and I know that's wishful thinking, but I think we should be living in a society where such a thing is possible, where an honor system like this could work. And if you're really struggling, you need this solved right now, you're honest, you make your case, and they judge you based on that case. Okay, that's a possibility, right? I think it's good. I think a company that would use an honor system like that makes sense. It shows they trust their customers, they value their customers, and that way the customers that need the fastest help will get it. Well, what about an Apple Care type thing? Because with Apple, I pay a bunch of money a year, but I will get to someone in support quickly. I will get the support that I need. They will stay on the phone with me 4 hours. Apple support does their job. Well, something took a long time to fix, but that wasn't them, that was the programmers in frickin' Palo Alto. So, what about that? What about you buy, let's say, an audio interface, and you get the option of an extended warranty, which is what Apple Care is. It's a hardware and software warranty, and hardware and support warranty. Well, we could say, well, I don't want the hardware warranty. I don't think I'm going to break it, but I'd like to pay $50 extra a year so that I have access to someone on the phone. Wouldn't that make sense? Would you pay that? Would you think that company's trying to rip you off? Because right now the option is zero phone support. And if the only option I have is pay $50 a year to get that phone support, well, then I would gladly pay that. Very gladly pay that, just to know I can reach someone on the phone and I have a right to it because I paid for it. So, what do you think about that? Apple Care style phone support. $50, $75 a year, whatever, but you know, and you know what, you as a hobbyist, you don't go for that. That way also doesn't get folded into the product price, and also, you know, they can't not provide it to you because you fucking paid for it. But when you're a professional studio, where you otherwise, if you don't have that phone support, have money going down the drain by the minute, you will definitely go for it. I would go for it. So what do you think about that in our music industry? For the higher end gear, where we know we have to have the support in professional situations, there's a paywall. Why not? Why not? How about this? How about someone who, so that's option number 2. The other thing could be, what if you invested in their ecosystem. Usually a company has, audio interface and then this and the clock thing and the whatever bits and bobs that you need. And if you want, you will get preferred VIP service and phone support, not email, not chatbot, once you hit a certain threshold of investment into the company. So let's say I bought an audio interface and then a second one and an accelerator, and then I bought an audio interface for my other studio, and I bought quite a bit of their software. And I'm above 5K or above 7K, whatever the threshold is. I spent so and so many thousands with that company, and that now gets me into their VIP tier. And at that point, oh yeah, I will absolutely get phone support because I'm a valued customer to them, which would encourage people to stick with the one system to reach that tier, which I don't feel is a bad thing. I mean, Apple is doing a very similar thing with their stuff. So that could be cool. Okay, stick with the company when you're equipping a studio. You have 1 room, 2 room, 3 rooms, stick with the same equipment. And that will allow you to get the higher end service. You'll stick with the company, and at a certain amount that you spend with them, you will get the higher end service, which of course guarantees, and it's very easy, that the service isn't for the guy in the basement that once in a while records a song and thinks he's super important and needs to have immediate service. No, if you spend so and so much with the company, it likely means that you are a professional who's dependent on it. The gig is about to happen, but you have no audio. What the fuck are you gonna do? How are you gonna get this mixer to do what it's supposed to do? Well, you just call them up, not a problem, because you bought that mixer, which is a certain price. You bought oh God, it's really steep here. You bought the extra card, you bought all the stuff, and all of a sudden you're above a certain threshold and you get the support because the money you spend is signaling them that you are a professional in the field who needs their support. How about that? So either an honor system, I like that. I would like that if it works, probably doesn't. A paywall for the professional or for the hobbyist who just wants support no matter what, makes total sense. A threshold of how much gear you have to have bought to get the support. The problem is these companies need to find some way to give us continued in-person phone support, or actually, hey, look on my screen, TeamViewer, Zoom, whatever. Because when shit hits the fan and things don't work, I had a video that I was about to film. I clicked update on something. All of a sudden it said, oh, nope, can't do it. I needed to adjust, oh, this is really steep now. I needed to adjust a gate. I couldn't get to the software. It just wouldn't let me without upgrading everything. And that was a 45-minute process and several restarts. So Leslie was sitting there being bored out of her mind. Everything was ready to go to shoot the video and I couldn't. In that case, it worked. In my other studio this morning, it didn't. And if I didn't have a friend at the company, I would still be sitting there. I would be now waiting to hear back on email for about a week or two. However, I have spent 10, 20,000 bucks with them easily. Oh God, just in software, probably 10,000 bucks. And again, you might know who I'm talking about, but that's not the point. Other companies in this field, the same thing, because one looks at the other and says, oh, they don't have good support, so we don't have to have good support. That's not honorable. You should have your own standards of what good support is and then provide that. Not look at shitty support and say, well, they have shitty support, so we can have shitty support. It's bullshit, and we shouldn't be standing for that. It's going downhill. We get provided less and less because some rich dude thinks using an AI chatbot, look, I use AI, fine, totally, I just made a course about it. But we made a video about chatbots, watch that. Nobody asked for the frickin' bots. Nobody wanted them, nobody likes them. Why the fuck are we okay with that? And if they're using it to weed out some of the easy questions, I understand. But there should still be a thing at the end where you get to a real person, not an email form. That doesn't help me in the situation, right? So, please comment. How should they solve that issue? Let us know. I think it would be a very valuable comment section for these companies. I will try to steer as many companies to your comments as possible, and maybe remove something. Who knows, right? Thanks for hanging out, and animals at the end.